Hi, welcome to today's video, the Netflix book tag. I needed to do a video, didn't know what to do, went on YouTube, did a bit of research and spotted this book tag. It seems to have been doing the rounds a few years back, so I'm only a little bit late to the party, but you never know, it might be revived after this. So I'm going to have to read the questions because I have no chance of remembering them. I've linked the original creators video down below for you all to have a look at. So question one is, recently watched the last book you finished reading. The last book I finished reading was literally midnight last night. It was an arc that I was just determined to get through no matter what. I'm really far behind. And it was called Dark Lullaby. It's dystopian and it's set in a time when women can't conceive. So in order to keep the population growing and for us to not die out, couples have to go through IVF. And it's like super IVF. It sounds 500 times worse than what IVF is in current society. To the point where there's women who die going through the process of trying to prepare their bodies for a baby. And then once that baby's born, there's this kind of ruling, governing body type people who monitor the parents and the baby extremely. And the parents get so many chances to keep their baby. If you get, I think it's 7 warnings within a year, then your child is just taken off you, full stop, that's it, gone. And it can be something as simple as your baby was crying for like 10 seconds longer than they think is acceptable. And so we have 2 timelines where there's a couple in the current timeline who've had their baby removed and we're following them on their like kind of journey to try and track her down and fight to get her back. And then in the previous timeline, it's how they met, how their families went through the experiences of having a child, and then leading up to them making the decision to have a child. And I really enjoyed that book. I thought it was fantastic, perfect for dystopian lovers. So question 2, top picks. A book or books that's been recommended to you based on a book you have previously read. So back in the day, I absolutely loved the Hunger Games series. What else? The Divergent series, the Gone series, the Maze Runner series. You're catching on to a trend here, right? So I was recommended the Legend series by Marie Lu, based on that. And I have owned these since about 2015 and have still not read them. I don't even know what they're about. I just know it's some kind of YA dystopian similar to the Hunger Games. However, these books are on my priority list for 2021, so I'm desperately hoping that I will actually get round to them this year. If you've read them, let me know if I should be pushing them up towards the top of the list. Question 3, recently added, the last book that you bought. The last book, or one of the last books that I bought, was Wranglestone by Darren Charlton. I read this as an ARC, as an ebook, and I collect and keep every single zombie book that I've ever read. So I bought a copy of this as soon as I got a chance. This is Queer Zompok. We follow 2, I think they're teenage boys, and they live in a group of survivors who are on these like islands that are in the middle of a lake, in the middle of a national park in America, if that makes sense. They are fairly safe most of the time, unless they have to do runs to the mainland for supplies. However, once winter hits and the ice freezes over on the lake, the zombies can then just walk across the lake to the survivors. So there's that threat that this kind of book is leading up to that point. I really enjoyed the plot of this. I thought it was just really interesting, really easy to read. The only thing I wasn't keen on with this was that the 2 boys who were the main characters, they seemed very caricature characters, you know. I think if they'd have been done a little more subtle, that it would have been fantastic. So, question 4, popular on Netflix, books that everyone knows about, 2 you've read and 2 you haven't read or have no interest in reading. Okay, so the first one, John Marr's The Passengers, or indeed any John Marr's book, he tends to write really cool futuristic thrillers. And this one is set in a near future where cars are automated, so we don't drive them, we just get in as passengers and tell them where to drive us to. There's a hijacker who has taken over 8 cars, and he is kind of threatening the government that they need to come clean with the ways that they are running things that people aren't aware of, or else these 8 cars are going to collide in 2.5 hours, and they'll explode and everyone will die. And it's got like this really cool part where each of the people in the cars, each of the passengers, are being watched on monitors by the whole world the whole time this is going on. They're being asked questions, they're being asked to put appeals forward as to why they should be saved, things like that. It was just absolutely fantastic. The other book that I've read that people know is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. In this we follow Pippa, who for a school project decides to look into the murder of a schoolgirl that happened 5 years previous in her town. She doesn't believe that the person who was convicted for her murder, or who it was blamed on, she doesn't believe that they were actually guilty, and she wants to prove their innocence. This book, I listened to it as an audio, and oh my god, I was not expecting to love it as much as I did. The audiobook is amazing. There was sound effects, there was a cast of characters, absolutely fantastic. I cannot wait until the next book goes on to audio. I keep looking and I've still not found it, but yeah, as soon as it does, that will be mine, that book. Right, the two that I have no interest in reading, I'm not even going to say specific books, I'm going to say authors that just immediately I go, oh, no. And that would be Sarah J. Maas. I don't do lots of fantasy. It just doesn't work for me at all. So yeah, that's somebody I stay away from. And Kristen Hanna, she is super historical fiction, very long-winded, massive books. And yeah, that just doesn't do it for me neither, so I will probably never read any of their books. Then question 5 is Comedies, a funny book. Okay, so a funny book series that I have read and really enjoyed is the Why Mummy series. There's actually 4 books, I just own 2, but I have read the whole series. These books follow Ellen, who has 2 children, and the books follow through various stages of life. So in the first book, the children are very young, and then obviously through the series they get older and older until in the final book of the series, book 4, they are, I think one's off to university and one is doing his GCSEs, something like that. They're just really, really funny books because they tell parenting as it is. That I just found there were loads and loads of times in these books where I was like, oh my god, I've done that. Oh, yeah, I've thought that as well. And it was just really, really funny the way she talks about some of the stupid crap that happens to you as a parent that you just can't imagine ever happening in life if you wasn't a parent. Like, it's just really random shit. Like, before I was a parent, I never thought I would have to say the sentence, please don't wrap your willy around a ruler. But it turns out I've said that during homeschooling. So, you know, things like that. I just found that series super funny and really, really relatable. And then the next question is number 6, dramas, a character who is a drama queen or king. I really, really struggled to think of something for this question. I've decided to go with Beauty Queens by Libba Bray. This is another audiobook that I highly recommend. It is just hilarious. All the characters have got different kind of voices and different accents. And so, but what it is there's a plane full of beauty queens who are headed to a pageant. The plane crashes on some kind of remote desert island, and the beauty queens on board have to figure out how to survive. And then there's somebody who's trying to kill them, and they've got to, you know, try and figure out how to beat the villain and things like that. It is absolutely hilarious. It's just so fun and so like, oh, it's like a guilty pleasure type thing. It just completely takes your mind off everything. It was just brilliant. I loved it. I recommend it to everyone. It's even on Spotify, on the audiobooks on Spotify. if you have an account on there. Right, number 7, animated, a book with cartoons on the cover. This is another one that I struggled with, and I had to just go straight for middle grade, and I came up with the Nevermore series. Obviously I'm missing the last one. Nevermore, The Trials of Morrigan Crow. These are absolutely fantastic series. If you haven't heard of them, I'm going to not do justice to them right now, so please go and do your own research. Morrigan Crow is an 11-year-old girl who is cursed and fated to die on her 11th birthday. Instead, some guy turns up, Jupiter North, and he whisks her away to this like hidden secret city where it's full of magic and dragons and talking cats and all this kind of stuff. And it's just so much fun. Morrigan gets put into some trials to become part of the Wondrous Society, and so she has to go through all these like weird tests and show that she's worth the place. And I just absolutely loved that first one. I have not read the second one yet, but I'm hoping to do very shortly. And then question 8, watch it again, a book or a book series that you want to reread. Bizarrely, I do not own the entire series of The Hunger Games in books. I don't know why, I just never seem to buy them, but I do want to own them. I absolutely love this series. Katniss Everdeen is queen of the world, and yeah, I really desperately want to reread this series. Funny story, I was reading The Hunger Games, the first book, just before I got married. In fact, the night before I got married, I was reading this in the hotel and I couldn't put it down, and it got to just gone 3 o'clock in the morning, and that's when I finished the first book, and that's when I went to sleep and had to be up about 3 hours later to start getting ready. I looked absolutely exhausted. You could tell I barely slept, and my mum was like, "Oh, have you not been able to sleep, love? Are you nervous or excited?" And I'm like, "No, I was just reading a really cool book." So yeah, I look like shit on my wedding day because of The Hunger Games. That's who I'm blaming anyway. Right, question number 9, documentaries, a non-fiction book you'd recommend to everyone. Well, any of these medical memoirs. If I don't mention a medical memoir in a video, is it even one of my videos? I don't know. So any that I just love medical memoirs. But also what I wanted to mention was, God, this copy is really dirty. The Tori Hayden books. Now, I started off reading about, what do you want to call them, like children in care, because I was reading like I don't know if you can see some of them, the Kathy Glass, Casey Watson, that type of people. But I came across Tori Hayden, and I think people might find these slightly easier to read. If you find the foster care memoirs a little distressing, these are slightly easier because they're not as intensive on the damage that is being shown. I don't know how to explain it. I just feel like these aren't as upsetting, to be honest. I mean, they are, but I don't know how to explain it. Anyway, so Tori Hayden is a teacher, so she's not with the child all the time, so that's why I want to say they're slightly less intensive. She just deals with them at school, and so the children are always children with extra needs. Sometimes they're mute, sometimes they are incontinent, sometimes they are violent, sometimes, you know, it's all because of the trauma that they've gone through. But yeah, these are really great. How she gets these children to like engage with her and trust her and start having a sort of normal school and social life with the other kids. Yeah, they're fantastic. Question 10, action and adventure, an action-packed book. The one that just comes to mind straight away, the one with the most action that I have read that just is right there in my mind, is Monstre Volume 1 by Duncan Swan. This is sci-fi. It is, if you've ever watched Starship Troopers, the film, this is just, it's Starship Troopers on crack. It is just incredible. It really is like, it's just action, like the whole thing. So there's like this kind of alien race that are taking over the world, but it's like through this kind of like smoke or fog, so that people can't see what's going on within it. And it's gradually going across the world, covering, you know, bit by bit the whole world. And within the fog is the alien race, the like giant killer bugs type things. Like the soldiers are like having to fight them and find weapons that'll kill them, and then the survivors who are trying to hide. And oh, it was just absolutely fantastic. I really loved this book, and I didn't think I was going to love it as much as I did, to the point where I am desperately waiting for the second volume to come out in fall this year. Question 11 is new releases. A book that just came out or will be coming out soon that you can't read. And for me, that is The End of Men by Christina Sweeney Bard. This is another dystopian. I feel like the whole thing has practically been dystopian. I didn't plan it that way, but so this is another dystopian. It's set in the very near future, 2025. And it's got a global pandemic. So, you know, it's not for everybody at this time of life. And this global pandemic is lethal, but it only affects men. And the story is told from different perspectives of women who are left to kind of clean up the mess and figure out society, I guess. Because obviously, if all men are killed off, then the population will at some point just end. And that is as much as I know about this book, but it's as much as I need to know. I am on some dystopian fan pages on Facebook, and this book is being talked about a lot. People are saying it is amazing, or it, you know, they're really excited for it to come out. And yeah, I am jumping on that bandwagon. I cannot wait. Thankfully, thank you to NetGalley, I have the arc of this, so I am going to be reading it for free. Cannot wait. I'm so excited. And the last question, number 12, well, it's not actually a question. It's just to tag some people who might want to do this video. So, I have no idea who's already done this, but I haven't seen it recently, so I think if anyone's done it, they might have done it a while back anyway, so they could do it again. So I'm going to tag Connor from Connor's Library Corner. I am going to tag Kat from Brews and Reviews, and I'm going to tag Kaz from Cats and Camera. Hopefully they'll give it a go, and then I get to see everyone else's answers. So if you've read any of the books I've mentioned, please let me know below, and I will see you all soon in another video. Bye.